Alright, now let's actually make this look like a real grade book. We're going to put in some sample grades for students. We're going to average those grades, get the student's basic average, but I also want to get an average for each assignment. I want to know if an assignment was too easy or too hard, or if we just have some mastery issues. So we want to get averages in both directions. Now, when we get ready to do this, I really don't want to have to type in grades for each student. I'm kind of lazy. Let's see here. We have, it looks like in that top left corner, I see there's 14 rows and 10 columns. So that's 140 grades. I'm a little too lazy to do that. So I'm going to borrow a formula that I found on my favorite Excel website, Tech on the Net. That's pretty nerdy sounding that I actually have a favorite Excel website. But anyway, we're going to use the function called randbetween. And here it explains to me that I can put in a bottom and a top for my range, and it will give me a random number between those two. It also mentions that this formula is only available in the newest versions of Excel. So if you don't have one of the newer versions of Excel, I'll leave an alternative formula that you could use to do a similar method. A little trickier of a formula, but very similar for us to do this. Okay, so let's go over here, and I'm going to start with equals rand between parenthesis, and just for the sake of this example and random distribution, we're going to say the students all made somewhere between a 60 and a 100. So it's kind of like making a little guess a number puzzle thing. Once I have the closed parenthesis, I'm going to hit enter or return, and it gave me 89. It'll probably give you a completely different number because it is random, and that's okay. Now I'm going to take these numbers and hover over the bottom right corner, and I'm going to pull it across, and now I have random numbers for each student, or for each assignment for this student. Now you'll probably notice mine strangely didn't, but for the most part when we copy and paste this formula across, the number probably is changing for you. And anytime I do anything to the page that creates a calculation, it's going to change. And that's because the rand between function is what we call volatile. It's irritable. It likes to change a lot, changes its mood. So we'll have to deal with that. But before we do that, let's get it in every cell. Now, one thought is that from here I could just copy it down and everything will be great. Notice it's still changing some numbers around. But one problem is that I lost all my zebra striping, and I don't want to do that. Plus, it also gives me an opportunity to show you how to copy and paste without affecting your formatting. So I'm going to undo that. And now I'm going to select all these formulas and I'm going to copy them. And then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click down here on cell L16 so that I select all, and we're going to do something kind of similar to what we did with the dates, but we're going to paste special. Now I don't want to just paste everything. I don't want to paste the striping. I just want the formulas. I just want the formula to copy down, not all the formatting, not all the everything else, just the formulas. And I'm going to click OK, and you'll see my numbers changed again. But I have sample grades for all the students now without having to type them. Now, if I wanted to have random jumping numbers, another one of my favorite nerdy websites is a shortcut website. And it tells me that I could use the F9 key to recalculate. So if I wanted to create random numbers, like if I'm trying to randomly choose a student that I want to ask a question of in the room, I could use the F9 key. One thing I found out is on my Mac, when I just hit F9, it ends up doing some other function. So I found an FN button on my keyboard since I'm using a laptop, and when I hit F9, it actually does F9, and you can see I can randomly generate more numbers. So that's kind of cool. That could be useful. For our example, I don't want the numbers to constantly jump around. I want to be able to do some calculations, and honestly, we were just trying to be easy and save time. So we're going to use one more trick. I'm going to select all these random grades. This time I'm going to copy them again, and I'm going to use a different kind of paste special. this time I'm going to just paste special the values that the formula gave me. So I just want the current value and I want it to stick. I'm going to click OK. And now if I hit function F9, nothing's changing. And when I click inside the box, the formula is actually gone. It just took the value the formula gave me that one time and it locked it in. Now all my grades are over on the edge, so I'm going to select those and get them lined up just like I did everything else. It did keep the vertical alignment, so I don't have to worry about that. Alright, let's add the average. We've done this in Excel 101 and 102, but just review. We could go up here and choose average, or I could have typed out the formula myself with a ran between, or I could even use the function helper to help me out. There's tons of different ways to do that, but I'm going to click enter and I have my average. Now we might be thinking, let's pull this down, but remember what happened when we did our random numbers. It lost our striping. So with this cell selected, I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to hold down shift and click the last one, and I'm going to paste special again the formula so that I don't affect the striping. Now sometimes we're getting 1 decimal point, sometimes we're getting no decimal points. You might be getting, depending on the numbers that were randomly chosen, you might even be getting more. I want to make sure mine are exactly 1 decimal point. I remember something from science class about you want your decimal precision to be maybe 1 more decimal than your data. So I'm going to play around with my decimal precision buttons here. I can increase the decimal places or decrease. So now I have 1 decimal place all the way across. I'm going to also center these just to keep it consistent looking. And I'm going to go down here 1 row below, and I want to make an area for my class average or my assignment average, however you want to think of that. And here I want to average all the cells above it. Okay, so I'm going to use an alternative way to do that, especially since I don't want it to maybe accidentally guess the date. I think Excel might be smart enough not to do that, but just to be safe, I'm going to do equals average parenthesis, and I could either type C3 to C16, but I'm going to click and hold and just drag through it so it types it for me. Close the parenthesis and hit enter. Now notice it's got a little notation here. Let's see what that says. Formula omits adjacent cells. Oh, okay, that's because I left a space here, so that's not really a problem. I can ignore that. I'm going to drag this formula across by hovering and clicking over, and I'm going to go ahead and get the average of the averages. Okay, so for all of these, since I'm getting the student average, I do want to play around with my decimal number amount. So maybe I'll make that 1 decimal. And I may go ahead and let this guy be 2 decimals. I'm going to make sure I set it to 2 decimals so it's not just randomly choosing that. But for my decimal precision, I guess I could be consistent and really make that 2 decimals there. Okay, so just to be continuing in our consistency, I'm going to select all these and center them. And so now I have student averages, I have assignment averages, I even have an average of the average, but we're not matching our formatting. So I'm going to select one of these rows, and I'm going to use my paintbrush, and I'm going to paintbrush across here, and you'll notice that it pulls in a lot of my formatting, my borders. It didn't pull in the height. I'll still have to resize the height, but it did mess up my decimal formatting. So I will reset those to just 1 decimal there and maybe 2 decimals there. Okay, we're looking good. It does have some messages that we can ignore about the blank rows, but I think we're all set. Since we've reached a new milestone, let's go ahead and save our work, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.